Hey, School Transportation Nation, it's Tony Corpin and Ryan Gray with you today. We're going to be talking about all things school transportation, and we are excited to do it. This episode is brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing software, and by ICBus. The next generation can change everything. Ryan, welcome, sir. Great to see you.
Great to be seen. Thank you, Tony. And Nation, it's always a pleasure to be with you.
Wonderful. So just in a little bit, we're speaking with Kara Sands, the transportation lead trainer and driver at Hanover Community Schools Corporation in Indiana. She was the winner of the inaugural Dick Fischer School Bus Safety Scholarship for STN EXPO West this year. And I wanted to be sure that we brought her on for an important conversation. We're in school startup mode around the country. Some people have been in for weeks, Ryan. Others haven't even started. So you get the whole gambit out in the country, but soon everyone will be in school and it'll be full tilt. But safety is always a paramount element of everything that we do in school transportation. And it's great to highlight this conversation.
Absolutely. And training, we talk about it all the time, training. You can have all the technology that you want, but if you don't train folks, first of all, on the intricacies and the fundamentals of transporting students in general ed, students certainly with disabilities, and that's going to be a big focus of our TSD conference coming up in kind of less than 3 months. It's crazy. It's so vital that the employees, whether they've been working for the school district or in the industry for 20 years or 20 months or 2 weeks, training is always going to be the hallmark of this industry, falling back on that. And we just see that this time of year with the districts, whether they're just starting up, they're starting in a couple weeks, they've been going for almost a month now, or at least 3 weeks. That training is just going to be a continuum, and it's just going to continue to increase. And there's always going to be issues popping up that they need to address and they need to train up on.
Yeah, also some top headlines we're going to be diving into. Trump's EPA eases D-rate rules. This is having to do with DEF systems, DEF, as we all know it. So EPA is getting involved in some sweeping changes governing the rules of DEF systems. So we're going to dive a little deeper into that right after this quick message. Today's tech tip is brought to you by ICBus. The next generation can change everything. Looking for ways to improve your on-time performance and reduce operating costs? All ICBus CE series school buses come standard with factory-installed telematics devices, including a 5-year connectivity subscription. Customers gain access to on-command connection, an industry-leading remote diagnostic solution, providing data that is visible and easy to understand and actionable. With OCC, your district will have visibility to vehicle health and performance data at your fingertips, including EV-specific information like state of charge and estimated range. Learn more about standard capabilities of their connected vehicles at icbus.com. That's icbus.com. All right, Ryan, so hit us with it. What is EPA up to? More changes, more updates.
More changes. I mean, again, the Trump administration is trying to be more business friendly. And we know for a long time, this whole issue of derating or using SCR, selective catalyst reduction, and DEF depletion to essentially, regulate the emissions. And it's derating the engine. So it's basically, decreasing the output, essentially. And that's been a thorn in the side of student transporters and truck operators, whatnot, for many years now, since this all went into effect about a decade ago or more. So it's essentially they're trying to make things easier from a manufacturing standpoint. And they're telling the manufacturers that immediately they can start easing these derate issues or operational settings on their engines. And it's going to be interesting. Again, the EPA is talking about all this money being saved, but we're in the middle. This just broke a few days ago. and still trying to get some comment from the industry on exactly what this means. It was just last week, Tony, we were talking about what do all these regulatory changes mean, and we discussed what my conversation was with my panel at STN EXPO West. We had Cummins, Thomas Built Buses, IC Bus, Bluebird, and Ride. That basically, they were still going with business, with status quo in terms of their business. These decisions have already been made for these different types of fuels. I think the intricacies now are going to come to play of, again, we've been talking for a while about where does diesel stand, and we know that under the Biden administration, diesel was really being pushed out. And there was a lot of conjecture, and rightly so, that once President Trump took office, that there would be a relaxing of a lot of these regulations, and that diesel is going to be making a comeback. And we already know. I mean, it's 9 out of 10 school buses, 8 out of 10 school buses that are purchased are diesel, and that has not changed. But certainly where we've seen the growth in electric. There's propane out there. We're going to be seeing gasoline, a lot more gasoline coming back into the industry here in about a year's time, a year and a half. So it will be interesting to see what impact this has. But certainly the EPA is trying to sound the bugle of being more business friendly and more operator friendly.
Yeah, I think whenever you see changes like this, you always kind of scratch your head and say, is this really going to help our industry? Or is this simply political moves being made? And I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously, in school transportation, diesel is the king, right? Of all the engines out there. What is it, Ryan? What do you think? 85% or more? 90% of all engines, diesel?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around like 80% at this point, because you're factoring in all when you're looking at all the school buses.
Yeah, because there's gasoline, propane, electric.
Type A is all gasoline, essentially. We have a lot of gasoline out there. I think 30,000 gasoline just over the last 3 or 4 years produced. And granted, the only game in town for gasoline or propane right now is Bluebird. But as I mentioned just previously, we know Cummins here in about a year and a half's time, they're going to have their octane engine, their gasoline coming out. And Thomas has said that they're going to adopt that. We know that it looks like similarly from IC Bus. So gasoline is going to get a big infusion here. I think, again, in terms of what the EPA said last week, where this policy is going to basically reprogram existing vehicles to avoid abrupt quote unquote derates or this rapid reduction in engine power. And that can cut the engine or the vehicle speed to as little as 5 miles per hour. And that's within hours of a DEF system fault. So again, when we're talking about the maintenance of these SCR systems and, regens, if you will, that's what we're really discussing. And will the manufacturers go ahead and is there's this magical switch that can be flipped and they can do this? This is what EPA alludes to. So again, we're trying to get more information from our engine manufacturer friends and OEM friends. But certainly out there in the nation, a lot of you all have been working with these engines, or your staff have been working with these engines. You know the issues. Will this help you guys? I think that on paper, yes. We'll just have to see how this all plays out and how it actually goes into effect. And will the engine manufacturers, namely right now Cummins, we have Detroit Diesel that's owned by Daimler, how will those companies react to that? So stay tuned, nation. We'll hopefully have some updates on that very soon.
Yeah, and I think also, Ryan, you had shared with me an email, a research study from ATRI Research talking about a shortage of qualified diesel techs in trucking. So I think that tale is the same in school bus. And I think you cited that, at least according to the report, that there were 10,510 bus and truck diesel mechanics that work in educational services. So we'll probably have to do do a deeper dive on our own to see how many maintenance professionals are inside school transportation, but definitely we see shortages, or we hear of shortages on the diesel mechanic side, and they're always having to do more with less. And this is definitely a story that will continue to follow, particularly around engines and diesel and other fuel sources, because this, there's been a lot of anxiety in the mechanic world with the advent of electric. Everybody was worried like this was going to take over the world, and clearly it's throttled back a few notches. I don't think it's going anywhere long term on the EV side, but definitely the purchasing momentum has slowed significantly from a standpoint of bus and truck.
Well, yeah, and we knew that was going to happen when eventually the Clean School Bus Program would exhaust its funds, which we thought was going to be another year and a half or so, 2 years. There's still a lot unknown about that, and we've reported recently that EPA did kind of come out of, they came out of hibernation, if you will, and sent that email about a month or so ago, updating on where they're standing with reviewing current projects, alluding to future funding, at least from the 2024 rebate that application that closed earlier this year in January. But we still have no concrete answers. And certainly when you see those funds at least maybe not dry up, but be suspended, that's going to impact like dominoes purchasing. And there was discussion last year at STN EXPO West on the OEM panel that, the OEMs were looking at it as a standpoint of, once that EPA money goes away, that they might see the prices start coming down. Because certainly when you have the school bus stimulus, I like to call it, the electric stimulus, that's going to, there's a lot of money out there, and you're flooding the market with money, and it's going to drive prices up. That's just how economics works. So it will be interesting to see, again, where Clean School Bus Program lands going forward, how that's going to impact purchasing, how that's going to impact pricing. We have this diesel conversation that's fully back in play now. We know the California Air Resources Board has had to relax some of its mission and goals to further push their advanced clean trucks rule and the rules and regulations that they had on manufacturers putting a certain amount of zero emissions or electric school buses in the market. And that, with Congress now acting, and removing those waivers, there's lawsuits still going on. There's just a lot of legal wrangling and ramifications. I know that there's several major truck dealers, including Daimler Trucks. They're continuing. They're suing CARB again because around this whole issue. Because they're saying, hey, this is untenable. We've been telling you it's untenable. Now we have Congress acting. So a lot still needs to be figured out. But certainly, I think in the here and now, the message rang clear to me with the OEMs last month. We have a whole host of options. We're going to meet the needs of our customers the best we can. We have electric works in certain areas where it works, and in districts where it makes sense. Others it doesn't. We have other options, and there's going to be more options coming soon.
Yeah, kind of how you touched on it, Ryan. Those four top truck makers, Daimler, International, PACCAR, and Volvo Group. Obviously, two of those in school bus, Daimler and International, like you said, suing over CARB, in terms of the federal actions that they vacated the state's efforts to enforce its own emission rules, right? So this is a constant tug of war between state and federal agencies, and that continues. And I even popped up over to Transport Topics that I check out on a regular basis, and they had a story up. ATA asks EPA to delay emission rule, right? Prolonged weakness in freight demand and inflationary pressures. They're asking them to the implementation timeline. It threatens the industry, at least on the trucking side. So, this stuff matriculates through all the heavy duty spaces. Obviously, we're moving kids. That doesn't slow down. School's in session regardless. But clearly, there's a lot happening with emission regs, diesel just so much action. I can't remember it being so hot and heavy, but I guess a change in administration, a change in policy, EPA leadership, all is leading to a lot of dynamic discussions around these topics.
And it always takes about 6 months or so for a new administration to get their sea legs. And we really see a lot of movement start happening. And I know the first part of the year, a lot of people were frustrated. That's kind of to be expected. But certainly the breadth of all of these changes is pretty staggering. And it really figures to shake up a lot of what the heavy duty space was being basically regulated to do. So, and we've been hearing for a long time that the 2027 emission regs, which are right around the corner, that was going to be difficult to meet. Now, a lot of the manufacturers have said they've met them, but certainly it's very costly, and those costs are going to be passed along to the consumer, to the school districts, to the bus companies. And we got to remember, again, school bus is one niche segment of trucking. So yes, the larger trucking segment, the trucking industry is really dealing with this and really meeting it head on, and is the one that's driving this. But certainly school bus is a part of those conversations, and it's going to impact school bus. So I think that, we already knew that EPA had basically put phase 3 on hold. That's been under review. Then all of these other actions have been rolled out, and really you can read it on the wall there that there's going to be something that happens with that. And heard some discussions, some chatter last month in Reno that there was going to be a delay around this. So I think that we're just seeing this all come to fruition, and certainly this is now making the media now. But it would not surprise me if we next hear that there's going to be some kind of delay in that implementation, and then it's status quo for a while. It's back to the conversation of these OEMs have already made these decisions. They're not just going to stop and roll them back. So it will be interesting to see how this all shakes out.
All right, the wizard behind the curtain, Ryan Gray, for the TSD conference is putting together the agenda with our tenured faculty, or these awesome ladies and gentlemen that care deeply about students with special needs, disabilities, and they are fine-tuning, tweaking, adjusting. What's up, Ryan? You got something new to share?
Now, our tenured faculty, all ladies, no gentlemen. Got some on the advisory board, but
you're on there, Ryan. I guess you're the only gentleman.
I'm not a tenured faculty. I'm
okay. Just,
like you said, semantics, I'm the wizard. Semantics. I'm the wizard of nothing. So, but an action-packed lineup taking shape. Still a lot more detail, of course, to get out there. But on Sunday, November 9th, Glenna Gallo. So Glenna is the former Assistant Secretary of the Department of Education, Office of Special Education and Rehabilitation Services. So she's going to be talking about what all of these policy changes could mean for transporting students with disabilities. So it's going to be great to have Glenna. And then the previous day, our legal expert, Betsy Helfrich, to discuss sexual assault. So certainly a very ugly side to student transportation. And we know it happens with bus drivers in attendance, and it's just horrible. But the number of cases that are out there right now involving student on student, and a lot of times it's an older student, sometimes who does not have a disability, and they're preying on a student who does have a disability. A lot of these times they're nonverbal. It's just, there's so much there in terms of video review and policy making and processes. So seating charts, are you using them? Should you be using them? How does FERPA, play into it? So, like I mentioned, Glenna Gallo is going to be there, trying to work up some more angles with her. We're going to be looking at, again, a return of our 13 exceptional abilities. So those are the 13 disabilities or conditions that the feds recognize that fall under IDEA. So it's really a sensitivity training. Really, it really packs them in every year. That's going to be taught by Terry Durka, who is a special education teacher and transportation liaison out of Utah. So glad to have her back. There are sessions on social stories. So using social stories to teach transportation safety. So Jill Metcalf, a former transportation director in Texas and a consultant now, she does a lot of work with Texas Association for People Transportation. Very well-respected trainer. So we're going to have her on hand. We're looking at modeling onboard behavior for students, evaluating and selecting bus stops. Our OTPT Transporter Forum, multidisciplinary policy development and impact on safety. We have American Sign Language. That's where we're closing the session with a half-day seminar on that on November 11th, working with the Texas School for the Deaf. Lots of great things, Tony. Of course, we have our rodeo. We're going to be working with Prosper ISD this year. So a couple years ago, they held our evacuation training. They're going to be helping us out with that again, but also our rodeo. So just a lot of great things on tap, providing service for medically fragile students. A lot there, a lot of hands-on opportunities as well. We have our NHTSA training. We have wheelchair securement training from AMF Bruins and Q-Straint. Our foundations of transporting students with disabilities and preschoolers, always a mainstay at the conference. A cannot miss seminar, how we open up the conference on Friday. So head over to tsdconference.com. We are daily updating the website. So check out and you'll see all the latest and greatest.
Yeah, it's exciting, Ryan. I mean, when we get everyone dialed in for the conference, we always love offering special discounts. So we've got that early bird discount to save $100 off your registration. So make sure and take advantage of that, guys. And if you've been to the TSD conference before, you know that it always delivers the best in special needs content. It's a deep dive. Most likely you're running general ed students in addition to your special needs. So you're amongst friends, you're amongst colleagues and peers that are all faced with very similar challenges. And I mean, Ryan mentioned Betsy Helfrich. And I always say, going to see an attorney, it's going to cost you more for 1 hour with Betsy than it is for the entire conference. So you spend 1 hour at her keynote, you're going to get your money's worth. And everything after that is just the cherry on top in terms of the legal advice, the sharing that's going on. And we're really developing more crowdsourced sessions. We're really looking at what we did at STN EXPO West. We did a power panel, a very thought leadership panel, roundtable discussions. We're looking how we can advance our roundtable discussions at the TSD conference because peers love talking to peers. So we're trying to curate that for you guys at the conferences so you can talk to your peer group about your challenges as well. So we have a lot of this kind of developing more and more this year and into next year. So more to come on that. Definitely go to tsdconference.com. Check that out. Also, to little tidbit for you, STN EXPO East in Charlotte, North Carolina, in Concord, up by the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We are working to launch registration within the next few weeks. So keep an eye on stnexpo.com/east for that. It's going to be March 26th through the 31st. Out there, and we'll have our super early bird save 33% off your registration. So that's always the max deal that we offer there. Great value. Embassy Suites, you get the free breakfast at TSD or STN EXPO East in Concord, right? The Embassy Suites is great for that. So, you save money every morning and you get a great hearty breakfast. If you've ever been to Embassy Suites, they do a cocktail hour, super fun, great common areas. So just two great venues, Ryan, to have a conference. All right, coming up is Miss Taylor Ekbatani, senior editor, talking with Kara Sands right after this. We're back from STN EXPO West, and what a blast. The TransFinder team had meeting everybody. They held several classes, had an amazing response to their ride and drive, showcasing their award-winning driver app, Wayfinder. One of the highlights was the top transportation teams panel discussion. The leaders of the 6 winning teams demonstrated just why their teams won. These were thoughtful leaders who listened to their teams, made changes to show how they cared, and yes, even had to make difficult decisions. As TransFinder's CEO Antonio Civitella said, it is so rewarding to honor these men and women who truly do heroic work every day. You can see how much this recognition means to these teams, and that's what makes it all worth the effort. TransFinder started the Top Transportation Teams program in 2023, and it continues to get bigger and better every year. Learn more by visiting toptransportationteams.com to learn more about how your company can join the program. Also visit transfinder.com.
Hello, nation. Taylor Ekbatani is back with another podcast guest. I have Kara Sand. She's the lead trainer and driver at Hanover Community Schools Corporation in Indiana. So welcome, Kara, to the podcast. I know it's your first one, so big round of applause that we could be your first podcast.
Thank you. I am nervous.
That's okay. I'm super happy that you joined us. But, before we get started, I kind of want to give the listeners a little background into who you are. I know you got started driving a school bus at 21, which is pretty young. But what did that kind of career progression look like? Why'd you start? Why school bus driving?
So when I was 21, it originally wasn't the plan to be a school bus driver. I didn't even know if I liked kids, to be honest. I had never held a kid in my life. I'm an only child. So I found out I was actually pregnant on my 21st birthday. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to figure out babysitting situations. And there was a place that I saw, I had a sign up, and it was a big school bus corporation, and they offered babysitting, free babysitting. And so I went with that. And that's how I actually originally got started.
Okay. So happy birthday to you, right? Finding out you were pregnant. So you started driving a school bus, and obviously your passion grew from there. How has your career progressed since then?
Well, through the years, I started in Illinois, and things are a lot different in Illinois than they are in Indiana, with laws and stuff. But basically, it's all about getting the kids safe to school. Like I said, I didn't even know if I liked kids, and I ended up driving and I found out I absolutely loved kids. And the favorite part about my job was putting a smile on the kid's face every day, and teaching them something new. Even if it's just, crossing the street, teaching them the rules, so they can be safe. And a lot of times the kids don't have guidance, especially working where I used to work at. It was more in the south suburbs of Chicago. And a lot of people didn't have, a lot of the kids didn't have guidance. So we kind of stepped in, as bus drivers, trying to figure out, which kids needed the extra help and which ones really needed those extra smiles.
I love that. And, bus drivers have such an impact on kids' lives. And I think that's important that you acknowledge that early on.
Yeah. And then I ended up going out to the middle of nowhere, I want to say. In Indiana, a lot of the country driving, totally different environments, totally different group of kids that you have to work with. Personalities are night and day. So that's where I ended up for a few years. And then now I'm back in the middle. So I'm still in Indiana, but every district I go to, it seems like you see a big change in personalities and how things work. So it's a learning experience every place I've gone.
Mm-hmm. So that's 3 districts then?
3 districts, yes.
Okay.
Actually, four districts.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So what took you from Illinois to Indiana?
Well, the cost of living was cheaper. My husband had to have major brain surgery at the time, and I was the one kind of supporting my family for a while. So we had to move south where the cost of living was cheaper.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sure that's a lot, working and, having to take care of your husband.
Yeah, he's a trooper though. He's doing great now. He actually is a bus driver now.
Oh, that's all. Oh, I think our associate editor, Ruth Ashmore, actually mentioned that you guys came to Reno together.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's awesome. So he's driving. Is he driving at the same district as you?
Yes, he is. Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the only one that can make jokes to the kids and not get in trouble for it because he's just that kind of guy,
Yeah.
He's a good grandpa.
I love that. Okay. Well, we'll definitely dive into Reno here in a second, but kind of wrapping up a little bit on you and your background. Looking at the training aspect of your job, why is that so important? Training drivers, and I'm sure there's a training of kid element as well.
Well, when I first started training, my thought has changed a lot. When I first started training, it was just basically trying to just follow the book and trying to make sure I covered everything. But through the years, I've seen a lot of different things that have made me care more about what I do and realize the importance in what I do. My opinion, even not meaning to say anything bad about directors or anything, but I really feel that training the drivers is the most important job when it comes to pretty much almost the entire school district. Our job is to make sure that the kids are safe, and I feel that that's our job. And if anything were to ever happen, I've been very fortunate to never have any bad experiences so far, but I've heard other horror stories with different trainers and things and experiences that they have had with bad experiences with their drivers. And I would never be able to live with myself, and I'm going to have, that's something that if it ever does happen, I would really have to figure out how to move on. So it means a lot to me. My daughter lost her best friend a few years back, and I feel that that's when my training experience changed a lot. I put faces with the stories now, and explain different situations that either I've been through or other drivers have been through. And I feel it's important that you touch the people, get to their, feelings, like let them really think about, what this kid, does, the parents don't have a child anymore, and, put yourself in their shoes, how you would feel. I feel that's very important to get through to my drivers, because some drivers think it's just another job, and it's really just taking it to the next level and making them understand it's not just another job.
Right. There's a greater impact to what they're doing than simply just driving a vehicle. And I know you mentioned that your daughter lost her best friend, and I just want to clarify that was in a car accident, correct?
It was a car accident. And the lesson that I teach with that is take your time. Don't ever rush. Don't be in a hurry. It's when, we get paid by the hour, not by the load, not like a dump truck. There's no reason to hurry. And once people start getting stressed out and having to worry about, oh, we got to be there on time. And you know what? That one accident is going to cost more than, you being late for school. That's what people got to understand. And I hope I can get through to some transportation directors about really thinking about the importance of taking time and not to put that pressure on their drivers, especially while they're driving, because it's all about getting there safe.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been a trainer?
Probably it's going on about 9 or 8 years, maybe about now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts, with the technology changing? Has that making the school bus driver's job easier, harder? How does that impact the training of it?
It will if they start using it. We're a smaller school district. We are the third fastest growing district in Indiana. But as of right now, we're still smaller than a lot of the schools. So we don't have a lot of the technology that I feel really would be a benefit financially and.
Well, even so, not having that technology, that puts even more greater importance on training drivers, on training students, and making sure that, danger zone safety, I think, is one of the big ones that comes to my mind.
Yes. I saw the backup mirrors and things like that, and the 360 cameras that can, you could see everything around you. It would be great if we can eventually get stuff like that added on to all our vehicles. I don't know, how soon we would get that, but that would really take a huge risk out of what we do. But then again, on the other hand, you would have to worry about, like, example with the sub drivers, they would get out of the habit of looking around and doing the things that they normally do because they rely a lot on the mirrors. So, I mean, I think the backing cameras are great, though.
It's a balance, definitely a balance, having some technology to help versus an over-reliance on that technology where drivers kind of expect it and want it and, rely on it to do their job. So I get what you're saying.
Right. I also feel that technology can really help with figuring out, the fuel prices and where we can save in different routing with our routes, and maybe put more into our drivers to keep the good ones longer. And you don't want to get rid of those good ones because it's not just somebody that can come in and fill in a job, like, not meaning to throw them under the bus or anything, but just a truck driver, say they come in here and look for a job, and they're used to just driving the truck, and they're used to getting there as fast as you can because they're making the money by the loads. And to me, those are the hardest people to train because they're, always still have that behavior is, I got to go. I try to slow them down and make them realize that it's not all about the time. We have precious cargo that we have to watch. So
it's almost like training a mindset.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm always working with trying to change the behaviors of the drivers. A lot of bad habits, will form over time.
Okay.
So there's a lot of technology that can help with that as well that I saw. And those are things that I would like to get our whole team out there to eventually, everybody, like our router and our director and, anybody that we have here helping mechanic, even our guy that, does the money. I feel, everybody really needs to be a part and see what the expo has to offer for the different resources. Our resource officer, like with the cameras, he does that. So there's just a lot that they offer for everybody at the expo.
Yeah, bring them. Bring everyone. Bring your team. Yeah. I know we'd love to have them out in Reno. But wrapping up this conversation really quickly on, you and what you're kind of doing at the district. I know we're recording this and you're a week away from school startup. But how has that been for you guys? Are you fully staffed? Have you been, training a bunch of people, pushing them through the finish line?
We actually are one of the only school districts around, I think, that we're very prepared with having backup drivers. Our boss has done a pretty good job about, she has bus monitors for a lot of the buses. So some of them that we see that really love their job, between myself and other drivers, we've kind of convinced them to get into it and take their CDL test and now become drivers themselves. So we did not have a shortage on drivers. We did lose a few, which every year, that happens everywhere. But we had a backup plan that was pretty good, I think.
Well, that's awesome. I look forward to hearing how your school startup goes, and I wish the best for you guys.
Thank you so much.
So jumping into Expo, I know you were the inaugural winner of the Dick Fischer School Bus Safety Scholarship. So that's very exciting. Have you met Dick Fischer before?
I did a class with him probably about 7 years ago. And a lot of the class stuck with me. And it was really funny because when I first saw him there, we were actually getting into the van to go to the hotel. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Dick Fischer. And I just started freaking out. I feel like he's like the famous school bus guy. I've always followed him. He's got 90 years experience or something. He's got, a lot of knowledge. And I was very fortunate to be able to be in his class again. And it was all about accident preparedness. Accidents are going to happen, lawsuits are going to happen, but to know a little bit what you're doing when it does happen and how to handle it and have all the right paperwork in place to help you, it makes you feel better knowing that you have that to back up the school. It was a really good resource. He's got 90 years of experience going into his paperwork. So I'm still going through it.
Probably over 60 years of experience. I don't want to age him too much, but no, he's an amazing man. I know you said that he's probably, an icon for the school bus industry. He was considered, the father of School Bus Safety Week. So he petitioned, President Richard Nixon at the time for the first federal recognition. So truly a remarkable man. And I know it's always an honor to have him out in our conference. So I'm sure, winning that scholarship, you got to come to Expo, you got to go to that accident investigation class. I know that you shared in the article about you that you were 30 seconds late to one of his classes, and he chewed you out, as he does. And then later, you called him and he spent 45 minutes on the phone with you talking through, a question that you had. And I think that truly describes him. I was reading that and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's exactly who he is.
It is. And I mean, he will take, all his time and just give it to other people. I said, how are you still doing this at your age? And he's like, well, it's because people like you still want to learn. So he's just an amazing person. And he's got so much knowledge. I followed him. I felt like I was stalking him for a week when I was there. Every chance I could, I would go just pick his brain. So it was a really good experience.
That's awesome. And that's what the expo is all about, is being able to network with people and see how they're handling other situations. And, maybe you have a question. Was there anything else at the conference that kind of stood out to you, or any other classes you attended that you were like, yes, I took a lot home with this?
Yeah, like the leadership classes, learning what a good team is, how to, what kind of the different personalities and character traits and everything, just that was great. The supervisor class was very informative. Just learning how to deal with all different kind of personalities, and it was a really good learning experience. There was so much. I was running from place to place, trying to make sure I could make as much as I possibly could make for the classes. So.
And going with your husband too, right, who's a school bus driver, how special that you guys got to have that experience together. But also from his perspective, I'm sure there was a lot that he was able to learn too, even being a driver.
Yes. He had no idea about any of this stuff at the expo. The one thing that was both of our favorites at the expo was the Robotronics, that bus that would actually talk to kids. And I was thinking that would be great for like different assemblies, and, because you want to make sure not just the drivers are learning about it, but the kids as well. The drivers only have so much time to talk with their kids, and that talking bus would definitely engage the kids in conversation.
Yeah, you're talking about Buster the school bus.
Buster the school bus.
He goes around the trade show floor. Yes, he's great.
That was great.
Well, awesome. I'm glad that you came out to the expo. I'm glad you had a good time and you gained a lot of knowledge. I know the listeners can't see you, but you have your notes there. You're looking through them. I'm sure you went home with pages of notes that you're like still trying to soak in.
I am, because we've been so busy. The one other thing that I wanted to say was Dick Fischer ran into me at the expo as well, or I ran into him. Like I said, probably stalking him. No, no, he was talking with a gentleman about, their lights and how he feels that they should add a different light onto the bottom of a bus and stuff. And the guy was talking to me about it too. And he's like, well, we can get you some lights to take with you, and you could place them on the bus and kind of play with them a little bit and see which one you think works better. And I thought that was really neat that they could do, we could do stuff like that, anything to, make it safer for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so
you're talking about like walking the trade show floor.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like there's a lot of different pilot programs out there that companies will offer, just test the technology and see how it works for your guys' district.
It's little things like that I didn't even think about before I went to the expo. And, I'm so motivated now. My brain is going 100 miles per hour trying to think of all these different things that we can start implementing in the workplace. And I'm really excited about it. After leaving there, I was very motivated.
It rejuvenates you. Yeah. I love that. I know even for us reporting on the industry and then being able to go, to the show, it kind of reconfirms what you guys do every single day.
Right.
Yeah. And we appreciate it, Kara. And we appreciate you jumping on the podcast and sharing your knowledge with us. And, of course, congrats on being the scholarship winner. I did see you and Dick Fischer, interact. So I don't think you were stalking him, but I'm sure he appreciated it as well, having you out there.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I appreciate him still doing it at the age of 90 something. So, one last thing that was interesting to me too that I never really thought about before was, the science part of it. I guess, the statistics. When it comes to getting the statistics, finding out, how much things cost after you keep track of certain things, and that how much money the school districts can save with the new technology that is coming out. That was another class that I took that was really interesting.
Kind of like that return on investment of how much you're spending, but like how much you get back in the end.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, our editor-in-chief, Mr. Ryan Gray, does an amazing job, putting together the sessions and finding speakers and, even going to the expos. I learned so much sitting in the sessions. So he does a great job. Kudos to you, Ryan. Mm-hmm. But again, Kara, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I hope for your first one, it wasn't too painful for you. I think we had a great conversation, and I appreciate all your knowledge. And thank you so much for what you do for the industry.
Thank you so much.
A special thanks to Ryan, Taylor, and Kara for joining this episode of the STN podcast. We also appreciate our sponsors, TransFinder and IC Bus. Make sure and reach out to them, guys. Tell them you heard about them on the STN podcast. They're brands but it's always good to get feedback that you heard all the great things they're offering on this podcast. Don't forget to visit stnonline.com for all the latest news and analysis on the school transportation industry. That TSD conference is calling your name. Register today for early bird registration to save $100. tsdconference.com. That's tsdconference.com to save that $100. Guys, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening to Pods Nation. We're here for you every week without fail, talking all things school transportation. Nation, we love you. We'll see you next week.